A group of kids send a heartfelt letter to Trump. His response surprises everyone. In a small, struggling town in rural Ohio, a group of fifth-grade students gathered around their classroom table, pencils in hand and determination in their eyes. Their teacher, Mrs. Carter, had just finished reading them a news article about how communities across America were finding creative ways to solve local problems. Inspired, the children decided they wanted to make a difference too. But they needed help. We should write to someone who can really do something, suggested Mia, the class leader, her voice brimming with excitement. Like who? Asked Jamal, furrowing his brow. The president, piped up Lily, her cheeks flushed with enthusiasm. The room erupted into chatter as the idea took hold. Writing to the President of the United States seemed audacious, even for a group of 10-year-olds. But there was something thrilling about the possibility. After all, hadn't their teacher always told them that no dream was too big? With Mrs. Carter's guidance, the students drafted a heartfelt letter. They wrote about their town, a place once thriving with factories and farms, now struggling with unemployment and dwindling resources. They described how their school library hadn't received new books in years, how their playground equipment was rusted and broken, and how many families relied on food banks to get by. But more than anything, they shared their hopes for the future. Dear Mr. Trump, the letter began, we know you're very busy being the leader of our country, but we thought maybe you could spare a moment to hear from some kids who care deeply about their hometown. We love where we live, but sometimes it feels like nobody notices us anymore. We want to make things better here, not just for ourselves, but for everyone. Can you help us? They included drawings of what they envisioned, a renovated library stocked with books, a shiny new playground, and a community garden where neighbors could grow fresh vegetables together. Each child signed their name at the bottom, along with a little doodle or note. When the letter was complete, Mrs. Carter mailed it off, not expecting much in return. Letters to presidents often ended up in filing cabinets or ceremonial responses from staff members. But deep down, the kids dared to hope. Weeks passed, and life in the small town continued as usual. The students went back to their routines, though they occasionally wondered if their letter had made it to the White House. Then, one crisp autumn morning, an envelope arrived at the school office. It bore the official seal of the President of the United States. The principal called Mrs. Carter into her office, holding the envelope gingerly, as though it might crumble in her hands. Inside was a handwritten note from Donald Trump himself. Dear students of Maplewood Elementary, I was moved by your letter and the passion you have for your community. It takes courage to speak up, especially when you're young. You remind me of why I do what I do, to make America great again, one town at a time. I'd like to meet you all and see firsthand how we can work together to bring your dreams to life. Mrs. Carter gasped, tears welling in her eyes as she read the words aloud to the principal. This is unbelievable, she whispered, clutching the letter tightly. By lunchtime, the entire school knew. The students erupted into cheers, hugging each other and jumping up and down in excitement. For a group of kids who rarely felt seen, this moment felt monumental. 2 weeks later, a motorcade rolled into town. Donald Trump stepped out of his limousine, flanked by Secret Service agents and local officials. The sight of him sent shockwaves through the community. Some residents cheered, others protested, but everyone agreed this was unlike anything their sleepy town had ever experienced. As he approached the group of wide-eyed children waiting anxiously outside the school, Trump offered a rare smile. So, he said, crouching slightly to meet their gaze, you're the ones who wrote that impressive letter? The kids nodded eagerly, barely able to contain their excitement. Well, Trump continued, standing tall, let's talk about how we're going to fix this town. Little did anyone know this visit would spark a chain reaction that would transform not only Maplewood, but also the way people viewed the power of believing in others. If this unexpected twist caught your attention, hit the like button and stay tuned for what happens next. Stories like this remind us that even the smallest voices can lead to incredible change. What do you think Trump has planned for these kids? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your predictions. Trump spent the afternoon touring Maplewood alongside the students, who eagerly pointed out the areas they hoped to improve. They led him to the crumbling playground, its rusted swings swaying in the breeze, and the library, where shelves sagged under the weight of outdated books. "This is where we come to read," Mia explained, her voice tinged with pride despite the obvious neglect. "But most of the books are old, and some don't even have covers anymore." Trump nodded thoughtfully, jotting notes on a legal pad he carried. "And what about this?" he asked, gesturing toward a vacant lot overgrown with weeds. "That used to be Mr. Thompson's farm," Jamal replied sadly. "He had to sell it when he couldn't afford the taxes. Now it's just sitting there." Trump studied the land, his sharp eyes scanning for potential. "It's wasted space," he remarked bluntly. "We can do better than that." As the tour continued, the students shared stories of their families' struggles. Parents working multiple jobs, siblings moving away in search of opportunities, and friends whose homes were foreclosed. Each tale painted a vivid picture of resilience amidst hardship, and Trump listened intently, occasionally interjecting with questions or observations. By the end of the day, the group gathered in the school auditorium, where Trump addressed the students and faculty. "I've seen enough to know this town has potential," he began, pacing slowly across the stage. "But potential means nothing without action. So here's what we're going to do." He outlined a bold plan: renovating the library, building a state-of-the-art playground, and transforming the vacant lot into a community garden and farmers market. Additionally, he announced partnerships with local businesses and national organizations to provide job training programs for adults and scholarships for students. "This isn't charity," Trump emphasized, his tone firm yet encouraging. "It's an investment in you, in your town, and in the future of America. But remember, none of this happens without hard work. Are you ready to put in the effort?" The students erupted into cheers, their faces glowing with excitement. "Yes, sir," they shouted in unison. Over the following weeks, Trump dispatched teams of architects, engineers, and volunteers to begin implementing the projects. The students played an active role, attending planning meetings, offering input on designs, and helping clear debris from the vacant lot. For many of the children, this was their first taste of responsibility, and it wasn't easy. Long hours spent balancing schoolwork and project tasks left them exhausted, and disagreements occasionally flared during brainstorming sessions. "We're trying our best, but sometimes it feels like we're not doing enough," Mia confessed one evening to Mrs. Carter, tears streaming down her face. Mrs. Carter placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You're doing more than anyone expected," she said gently. "Remember why you started. This isn't just about fixing a playground or planting a garden. It's about showing the world what's possible when people come together." Inspired by her words, Mia returned to the project with renewed determination. Slowly but surely, progress began to take shape. New bookshelves lined the library walls, colorful murals brightened the playground construction site, and rows of fresh soil awaited planting in the community garden. One afternoon, as Trump visited the town to check on the progress, he pulled the students aside for a private conversation. "You've done good work so far," he admitted, his tone unusually reflective. "But there's something else I want you to think about. What happens after all this is finished? How will you keep the momentum going?" The question caught the kids off guard. They hadn't considered life beyond the immediate projects. "Well," Ethan hesitated, glancing at his classmates for support. "Maybe we could start a club or something to help take care of everything and plan new ideas?" Trump smirked faintly, clearly pleased with the suggestion. "Good thinking," he said approvingly. "Leadership doesn't stop when the cameras leave. It's up to you to keep pushing forward." Encouraged by his words, the students began drafting plans for a youth-led council dedicated to maintaining and expanding the initiatives. Their enthusiasm reignited, they threw themselves into the final stages of the projects with boundless energy. If this story inspires you to believe in the power of teamwork and determination, take a moment to follow our channel for more uplifting tales of resilience and change. Have you ever been part of a project that brought your community together? Share your experience in the comments below. We'd love to hear how collaboration sparked positive change in your life. Together, let's celebrate the impact of small actions leading to big transformations. The grand opening of Maplewood's revitalized spaces was set for a crisp spring morning, a celebration years in the making. The once dilapidated library now gleamed with fresh paint, new furniture and shelves stocked with thousands of donated books. The playground buzzed with laughter as children tested swings, slides, and climbing structures designed specifically for their input. And the vacant lot had transformed into a thriving community garden, its rows of vegetables and flowers tended by local families who proudly called it their own. But just days before the event, disaster struck. A severe storm swept through the region, bringing torrential rain and damaging winds that devastated parts of the town. Trees fell onto freshly planted crops, flooding ruined sections of the newly built playground, and water seeped into the library basement, threatening the brand-new collection. When Trump heard the news, he immediately called the students. "This isn't over," he told them firmly over the phone. "Setbacks happen, but quitters don't win. What are we going to do about it?" The kids gathered at the school, their faces etched with worry but also determination. "We can't give up now," Mia said, her voice steady despite the tears pooling in her eyes. "This is our town, our dream. We'll fix it, together." With renewed resolve, they rallied the community. Neighbors came out in droves to help repair the damage, armed with shovels, hammers, and hope. Local businesses donated supplies, volunteers cooked meals for workers, and even those who had initially doubted Trump's involvement joined the effort. Trump arrived unexpectedly during the cleanup, rolling up his sleeves alongside everyone else. For hours, he worked silently, clearing debris and offering words of encouragement to exhausted volunteers. "You've got guts," he told Ethan, who was helping rebuild part of the playground. "Most people would have quit after a blow like this. But you're proving what real leadership looks like." By the time the sun rose on the day of the grand opening, the town looked almost as good as new. Better even. The storm had left scars, but it had also strengthened the bonds between neighbors and deepened their commitment to the vision they had fought so hard to achieve. As hundreds of residents gathered for the ceremony, the atmosphere buzzed with pride and gratitude. Trump stood beside the students on stage, watching as each child stepped forward to share their reflections. "When we started this project," Mia began, addressing the crowd, "we thought we were just asking for help, but what we learned is that we already had everything we needed right here in this town. All we had to do was believe in ourselves and in each other." Applause erupted, echoing across the square. One by one, the other students spoke, thanking Trump, the volunteers, and most importantly, their community for coming together. Finally, it was Trump's turn to address the audience. "I didn't come here to save anyone," he admitted, his tone unusually humble. "I came because these kids reminded me of something important, that greatness isn't handed to you, it's earned. They refused to let fear or failure stop them, and neither should any of us. This town isn't just rebuilding itself, it's redefining what's possible, and that's something worth celebrating." As balloons soared into the sky and music filled the air, the students realized they had accomplished far more than fixing broken things. They had reignited hope in a place that had nearly given up. Afterward, as the festivities wound down, Trump pulled the group aside for a quiet moment. "You've done something remarkable," he said, his gaze sweeping over their tired but triumphant faces. "But remember, this isn't the end. It's just the beginning. Keep dreaming big, and don't ever stop fighting for what matters." For the first time, the kids understood the full weight of what they had achieved, not just for themselves, but for generations to come. If this story of resilience and unity touched your heart, hit the like button and share it with someone who needs a reminder that setbacks are just setups for comebacks. What's one lesson you'll carry with you from these students' journey? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear how their courage inspires you to keep pushing forward when times get tough. Together, let's celebrate stories that prove nothing is impossible when we work together. In the months following the grand opening, Maplewood became more than just a revitalized town. It became a symbol of resilience and hope. The community garden flourished, providing fresh produce for families and local food banks. The library hosted workshops, book clubs, and tutoring sessions, becoming a hub of learning and connection. And the playground buzzed with laughter, its vibrant colors standing as a testament to what could be achieved when people worked together. But perhaps the most profound impact was felt by the children themselves. Empowered by their experience, they continued leading the youth council they had envisioned during Trump's visit. Under their guidance, the council launched initiatives to address ongoing challenges in the town, organizing fundraisers for struggling families, advocating for improved infrastructure, and mentoring younger students. Word of their achievements spread far beyond Maplewood. News outlets featured stories about the kids who saved their town, highlighting how a group of fifth graders had sparked a movement that transformed an entire community. Letters poured in from across the country, some offering congratulations, others seeking advice on how to replicate their success. One letter stood out among the rest. It came from a teacher in Detroit whose students were facing similar struggles. Dear Maplewood kids, your story inspired my class to believe that even small voices can make big changes. We're starting our own project to clean up a nearby park, but we don't know where to begin. Can you help us? Touched by the request, the Maplewood students gathered to brainstorm ways to support the Detroit class. They decided to create a step-by-step guide based on their journey, complete with tips on writing letters, organizing volunteers, and securing resources. They even included personal notes of encouragement, reminding the Detroit students that they weren't alone. When the guide arrived at the Detroit school weeks later, it brought tears to the teacher's eyes. Her students immediately got to work, using the advice to kickstart their own transformation. Meanwhile, back in Maplewood, the original group of students began preparing for middle school, a bittersweet milestone marking the end of an era. On their final day of elementary school, Trump made a surprise appearance, stepping into the classroom much like he had years earlier. "I heard you've been busy," he said with a grin, setting down a stack of folders on the teacher's desk. The folders contained invitations for each student to attend a leadership summit at Trump Tower, where they would meet other young changemakers from across the country. "You've earned this," Trump told them. "Not because of what you built here, but because of who you've become. Leaders, dreamers, doers." For the students, the invitation was both thrilling and daunting. They had started as ordinary kids with a simple idea, and now they were being recognized as role models. At the summit, they shared their story with hundreds of peers, many of whom were tackling equally inspiring projects in their own communities. Together, they formed a network of young leaders committed to creating positive change. One town, one school, one park at a time. Years later, as adults, the Maplewood students looked back on their childhood accomplishment with pride. Some pursued careers in education, urban planning, or social work, carrying the lessons they'd learned into their professional lives. Others stayed in Maplewood, continuing to nurture the town they loved. And though their paths diverged, they remained united by the belief that no dream was too big and no challenge too great if approached with courage and teamwork. Trump, too, often reflected on his involvement in Maplewood. In interviews, he credited the students with reminding him of the power of grassroots action and the importance of investing in future generations. "They taught me as much as I taught them," he admitted during a rare, candid moment. Sometimes, all it takes is believing in someone to unlock their potential. For Maplewood, the legacy of that fateful letter endured. Decades later, visitors still marveled at the thriving community garden, the bustling library, and the laughter echoing from the playground. A plaque near the entrance read, "Dedicated to the children who dared to dream," and the leader, who believed in them. It was a reminder that greatness wasn't born in isolation. It was forged through collaboration, determination, and faith in the impossible. If this story inspires you to take action in your own community, take a moment to subscribe to our channel and join a growing movement of dreamers and doers. What's one small step you can take today to make a difference? Share your ideas in the comments below. We'd love to hear how these students' journey motivates you to create change. Together, let's keep spreading stories that remind us all: no effort is too small and no dream is too big.